Hello and welcome. My name is Sylvia Kosterman. Today I'm joined by Lucy O'Flaherty from Glenview Community Services. Hello, Lucy.
Hi, Libby.
Perhaps we could start with you telling us a little bit about Glenview.
Sure. Glenview's a not-for-profit standalone aged care provider. We've been in the local community for about 65 years. We're very fortunate that we've been the largest employer in our local municipality for some time, which has given us a strong footprint in the local community. We're fortunate that we are able to not only employ a lot of locals and not only to be a home for many locals who can't live in their own homes, but also we have a very strong volunteer base that comes from our local community.
And I understand from your website that you won an award last year.
We've won a couple of awards, but yes, we're very proud of the award that we won last year. It reflects the fact that we have a very innovative approach to working in the aged care space. So inclusiveness is critical. The way that we engage our staff is critical. The reality is we do face an ageing workforce. It's an industry issue. So the more we can engage our workforce to journey with us, the better value that we as an organisation can give back to our residents and our customers.
And what's your role at Glenview, Lucy?
I'm fortunate enough to be the CEO of Glenview, so I have the best job in the world, I reckon.
And how did you come into that position?
I've worked in a variety of fields over my career, but in the last 20 years I've worked in the broader community services sector. I've been in leadership roles, you would say, establishing new programs, taking the sector through reform, so where the child protection and disability reforms came through, I was very much a part of that in Tasmania, and saw the opportunity moving into aged care to really, for me personally, get back to my roots, because aged care is actually where I started when I was 15, 16, so it's a lovely full circle.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Lucy. And an interesting segue, because we're talking about leadership today, and we're talking a little bit about the Aged Care Leadership Development Project. Can you tell us, how you came to be involved with the Aged Care Leadership Development Project?
Look, a little bit by accident and a bit by design, I think. Glenview's been, I guess, leading the way in many areas around workforce development and leadership. Many of those reasons are because we are independent and standalone, so therefore decision making and cultural shift is something that's more possible in a small organisation. I was invited to be part of the National Champions Group, which was really to, I guess, look at not only the overview, but how that actually overlays what we do, how that overlays where the industry is moving, what some of those barriers that as an industry we face. I was able to then work locally with my colleagues to look at what that might mean from a very local perspective. So what are our workforce issues here? What does leadership need to look like from a regional perspective? So I've been part of it through design, but a little bit by accident, I think.
Yeah.
Good fortune, maybe I should say.
Yes, absolutely. And as we know, Lucy, one of the major outcomes of the project is the Aged Care Leadership Capability Framework. And what that framework does is it describes the abilities that are required or aspired to by leaders at different levels within an aged care organisation. And I'm interested in how you found, like what you found in the framework that was potentially useful at Glenview. How have you introduced it at Glenview? What have you done with the capability framework in your organisation?
Yeah, Libby, I think one of the critical things or the critical reflections I've had is coming into the aged care space specifically, even though it is part of that community services space, is that aged care has some of the most empathic, compassionate and hardworking staff, and a lot of energy has historically gone into the task area rather than skill development areas. So this is not only an excellent opportunity to look at where various skills need to lie and how they might contribute to what we're trying to achieve, but it's also been an amazing opportunity to help people develop strengths and work to their strengths. So to look at, not only are they a great personal care or a great nurse or a great ancillary staff member, but they also have natural born leadership skills, and being able to tap into some of those and offer them some skills to be able to expand how they influence. So it's been a great tool to identify a leadership group. So we moved away from a management group within our organisation, and we now have a leadership group, and that's made up of not only the traditional executives, but also managers, but more broadly, key decision makers around the organisation. So people that, by the nature of what they do and how they do that, they are key decision makers in our business. So it's helped us to get more depth within our management team and our leadership team.
That's really interesting, Lucy. And so you're really changing the focus of the team itself by making that more of a leadership focus. And as the capability framework reflects, there's a combination of leadership and management skills reflected in that. So it's not like it's one or the other, but you've chosen to sort of emphasise that leadership aspect.
Absolutely, and we've been able to break down the tasks sort of things against the attributes. And most recently, one of the key workshops we ran was around assertiveness, because whilst our natural born leaders were very clear on how they contributed to the role, some of the barriers that they talked about was not feeling confident, even though they were perceived as confident by others. Their own self-esteem and their self-worth and that sense of, but I don't know how I do this, giving some structure and some opportunity through a workshop, we were able to put a whole team through assertiveness training, and we've had amazing results. People who we already saw as shining are absolutely glowing now, and that's been reflected through their day-to-day work. They're reporting more confident relationships, feeling confident to name things up when they need to be named up, assertive questioning, curiosity, that sort of stuff. So it's actually, as a small example of some of those skills, it's enabled huge personal and professional growth.
That's a fantastic example, Lucy, because it makes me think about the fact that leadership really, very much comes from within, and the first person that needs to believe they're a leader is the leader themselves. And
Absolutely.
So what you're doing there is really giving people, a leg up to sort of, and the recognition to say, look, this is, I can be a leader. I am a leader. I'm already seen as a leader. It's about me understanding that and working with that.
Yeah, and I have to say it continues to be a really valuable lesson for myself and the senior leadership team, so the executive group, because we have to stop and articulate how we're doing something, why we're doing something, what is it that is the difference between managing something and being a leader. So we've actually had to do a lot of navel gazing ourselves in terms of trying to unpack it so that we can explain it to someone else. And we found, like the pebble, the big rocks and pebbles, that kind of analogy on what's the big rock look like and how does it break down the big pebbles? What are the behaviours that you can see at either end of that spectrum? So it's been quite challenging, but it's been incredibly rewarding, because I certainly feel much more confident in talking to my leadership group and talking about this is what the vision is, but this is what my expectations are. So by understanding what leadership means in very tangible terms, I've been able to assist the group understand my vision a lot clearer, which will mean we'll get to our vision, we'll get to the end goal a lot faster.
Yeah, fantastic. So Lucy, what have you found the most useful thing about using the capability framework?
Look, the most useful thing is that it's not a prescription. It's a way of working. It's a concept, and the beauty is that you can use as much or as little of the framework as you want. You can use the tools, you can not use the tools, you can modify it to your own environment, you can tailor it to the cultural perspective of your own organisation. Some organisations will find it very challenging, others won't, but I think every organisation can use it, but it's about modifying it for where it fits individually. We've certainly found elements of it to be incredibly useful, others not quite sure of the relevance. Doesn't mean we won't use it in the future, but for now we're saying, not sure, let's not go here right now, let's move on and look at the other areas. So certainly some of the tools are, we recognise the tools to have value. We're not quite sure where that value is right now. Other tools are much more valuable, but the framework as a whole, if you look at it if you use it as a concept and you use it as a way of overlaying how you run your business, then it's very useful. If you try to look at it as a prescribed piece of work, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work because no two aged care services are the same, no two businesses are the same. So that's the beauty of it.
Thanks, Lucy. And look, it's just terrific to hear the stories and the progress that you're making with the capability framework at Glenview.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for sharing that with us today.
You're welcome, Libby.